Every time you sit down to eat, you probably think the food on your plate is just the result of a hardworking farmer and some good, rich soil. But there's actually an entirely hidden layer to your meal. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the myth that farming is just about sweat and earth, and we're going to expose a massive global system that's operating right under our noses. So, think about it for a second. Is your roti really cheap? We love to celebrate affordable food, obviously. But that low price tag, it's kind of an illusion. It's masking a pretty dangerous reality, something we can call chemical slavery. The true cost of our meals is actually just being shifted onto our national security and ultimately our soil. I want you to consider this quote. Every time you eat a roti, you are participating in a global gambling ring controlled by just 4 countries. Now, I know that sounds like something straight out of a spy thriller, but it is our reality. Our absolute foundational food security is tied to a global monopoly that we don't control at all. We are basically playing at a casino where we don't own the chips. And as we all know, the house always wins. To really grasp the scale of this gamble, look at this staggering number: 1.1 lakh crore rupees. Back in 2022, while the whole world was focused on the conflict in Ukraine, the Indian government was watching fertilizer prices violently spike from $600 to $900 per ton. To keep your food affordable, the government had to absorb this massive extra subsidy burden in a single year. That is taxpayer money, our money, paying the ransom for our chemical dependency. Okay, let's dive into the first villain of this story, the NPK trap. So how exactly did we get trapped in this system? Well, the foundation is NPK: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Ever since the invention of the Haber-Bosch process, which is what allowed us to synthesize fertilizer in the first place, modern agriculture has become completely dependent on these 3 elements. We've literally hooked our soil on foreign chemicals. What was once celebrated as our glorious green revolution is quickly turning into a glaring red alert for our food supply. Let the reality of this number sink in for a minute. 100%. India imports absolutely all of its potash. 0% comes from domestic sources. No, really, 0. We are completely reliant on nations like Canada, Russia, Belarus, and Jordan to provide the K in our NPK. If those ships stop sailing, our crops stop growing. It is an absolute terrifying vulnerability. And, it's not just potash. For DAP, that's diammonium phosphate, the P in our chemical equation. We rely on countries like Saudi Arabia and China for 50 to 70% of our supply. We are effectively outsourcing the literal building blocks of our agriculture to foreign nations. And this dependency, it builds into a massive geopolitical nightmare right at the Strait of Hormuz. All of these essential imports, the literal lifeblood of our harvests, must pass through one of the most volatile waterways on the entire planet. With constant tensions involving Iran, the US, and Israel in that region, a single international conflict could choke off our supply line, and Indian agriculture could collapse overnight. Sure, we have buffer stocks, but they would realistically only buy us a few months of breathing room. Which brings us to villain 2, the Rajasthan mystery. Now, this next villain is incredibly frustrating because it represents a huge missed opportunity right in our own backyard. While we are out there begging the world for potash, India is quietly sitting on 23,000 million tons of untapped white potash right in Rajasthan. To put that into perspective for you, Canada, which is one of our main suppliers, has only 1,100 million tons. We've known about this massive treasure for 40 years, yet we haven't extracted a single kilo. So why is this massive reserve completely untouched? Well, it's because the potash is trapped about 300 to 900 meters underground. You can't just dig a normal mine. It requires a highly specialized technique called solution mining. Basically, you dissolve the minerals with a liquid and then pump them back up. The crazy part is, the technology absolutely exists. There's just been a total lack of political willpower over the decades to actually utilize it. It seems we'd rather hand our wealth over to other countries than build our own extraction infrastructure. All right, let's move on to villain 3, urea and natural gas. At this point, you might be thinking, hey, at least we make our own urea. And we do, but there is a massive catch. 80%. That is the percentage of natural gas India has to import just to manufacture our domestic urea. Natural gas is the critical raw material here. If a foreign pipeline gets cut or if global gas prices skyrocket, we produce no urea. So the trap remains exactly the same. But listen, it's not all bad news. Let's talk about the heroes. 3 scientific solutions. We are definitely not helpless here. Science actually provides a really clear way out, and it starts with breaking our reliance on foreign natural gas. Solution number 1 is green ammonia. Instead of imported gas, we can use our abundant solar energy to extract hydrogen straight from water. Then we pull nitrogen right out of the air. You combine them, and boom, you get green ammonia. Yes, the initial setup is expensive, for sure, but it creates total, unshakable self-reliance for our fertilizer needs. Solution number 2 focuses on biology rather than chemistry. Bio-fertilizers. Specific strains of bacteria like Azotobacter and Rhizobium have this amazing superpower. They can pull nitrogen from the air and fix it directly into the soil. And you know what the craziest part is? These have been gathering dust in our scientific labs for 30 years. If we scale up the use of these natural workers, we could immediately slash our urea usage by 20 to 30%. And our third solution is pretty straightforward. Launch domestic solution mining in Rajasthan. Honestly, if countries like Israel and Germany possess the engineering capabilities to extract minerals from deep underground, India absolutely can too. This isn't just an agricultural project anymore, this is a matter of strict national security. We literally have to tap into our own reserves. So what does this all mean for us? Let's look at breaking the chemical slavery. The myth of free or cheap food is just mathematically unsustainable at this point. The current system is heavily subsidized and incredibly, dangerously vulnerable. Let this really resonate with you. If we want to save future generations, we must break this soil drug addiction. As consumers, we actually hold immense power. By actively seeking out shorter, chemical-free local supply chains, we send a massive signal to the market that the current system is just no longer acceptable. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. What will you choose next time you buy vegetables? Are you going to reach for the illusion of cheap food, or will you support local farmers who are actively breaking free from the chemical trap? Your everyday consumer choices are directly tied to international geopolitics and the very future of our soil. Think about that next time you go to the market. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious and keep asking those big questions.